We're on, right?
There we go. Welcome,
Awesome.
everybody. We've got a really awesome new friend that I've made in the house. Fred, is it Muruma or Muruma? Am I saying that
It
right?
doesn't really matter. It's the wrong way anyway.
What is it? Say your name for us, please.
It's Muruma.
Muruma. Gotcha. Well, welcome, Fred. It's
Hi.
awesome to have you chiming in from all the way across the planet. We're excited to really have an awesome, strong Estonian, Bulgarian, Latvian showing this month of June. Got a strong European focus because these
Yeah, man.
studs are just as responsible for building the Southwestern book business as any American. So Fred spent himself 6 summers on the book field and helped build a nice big organization over there, and really do some cool things. So we'll get into your story here in a second. Fred, thanks for joining us, by the way. Welcome.
Yeah, Nick. Thanks for having me. I suppose this is my first podcast, so I've never been to one. I was curious and wanted to have my podcast.
Well, here we are. Let's cast them, brother.
Yep.
So
Let's do it,
yeah,
man. Bam.
yeah. So the first sponsor of ours wanted to shout out is Elevate Wellness. So obviously, if you've been listening to this show, you know who they are. But if this is your first time, the reason why we love working with Seth, Zane, and Joe over there is that most people, they tend to struggle with things like buying groceries and eat healthy, right? If you're like me, sometimes that's just the case. And so in those cases, they actually break down what you should be eating to be your most optimally fit self. And then if you're also like me, when you go to the gym, sometimes it can be intimidating to know the exact workout plan, what days of the week, what exercises you should be doing. So they break that out all down for you. So that way, you actually have a full connection to like how your food and your fitness impacts the rest of your life, like your mental health and well-being overall. So our team has been using them for months. I get great results, great workouts, great coaching from Zane. And so let's get you in touch. If you're going to BIZZLER or anything else, right, you can look fit on the beach in Mexico when you join us down there on BIZZLER, or you can just do it to improve your life quality. We love working with these guys. Let's get you in touch. The next to give a shout out to is Cardinal Senior Benefits. Quentin Roberts is really building something awesome along with Pedro Vega and Nick Dale over there in Texas and other states. So last week they had 6 of 42 agents making over $10,000 in a week, right? That's gross profit. So the top spot goes to Isaac McConkey. I don't know if you ever knew him. Isaac sold books back in the late 2010s, I guess. But
No, sorry.
yeah, he just made like $25,000 in a week working just 35 hours. So there's 4 others above 20,000, and many more above 10,000. So they're really doing something great. And every sales organization has their superstars, of course. But what's most impressive is that from a percentage standpoint, the majority of the organization would be well above the average final expense life insurance sales organization in the country. So pound for pound, they're grossing more dollars earned than any agent in final expense. So if these numbers sound appealing to you, or if you know a former bookman, bookwoman, or someone well qualified with sales experience, they are hiring. And so for the next few weeks, they're running a promotion where if you refer yourself or a friend and they actually sign on, they'll pay you $500. So let's get you in touch with Quentin and Greta Huerta. Shout out to her as well over there with Cardinal Senior Benefits. And then the last to give a quick shout out to is Will Metscher. So Will, he's been coaching us for a few months now. Will is working with Southwestern Consulting. And what's really cool about Will's style is he's like super joyous, right? He's like a total goofball. I don't know, Fred, you kind of scream goofball vibes. Would that be accurate?
No, man. I'm actually quite serious. Sorry.
Well, you should work with Will. He'll bring some color in your life.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he would be a great partner to just break me open and just get some fun
yeah,
into the
right.
conversation, right?
Something like that. So, I love working with Will because what he does is what we all did as student managers, right? Is pour into
Right.
young college kids, build them up with skills and character. And so, if you want to get back to that career lifestyle of building people, Will is hiring. Everyone that he works with does extremely well. So him,
Hmm.
Anthony Merkel, Andy Laws, Daniel Bercaguero, all these studs that he's working with are just falling right in line with what he's got going on. So he's got a great vision. He's helping me out with my solar sales, helping us out with the podcast, and I couldn't recommend it enough. Let's get you in touch with Will.
Nice. Go well.
Yeah, let's go, Will. So love those guys. Shout out to our sponsors if you want to join us and join the team that we've got going of all of our jockeys, is what we actually call our sponsors.
Jockeys?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sticking with that,
Because you're
OC.
ponytails, right? Makes
Oh yeah,
sense.
yeah. It's the derby meetings that we have every Friday, every other Friday with our jockeys to share
Hmm.
about their business. So if you want to learn about them, check them out on those derby meetings. I host them every other Friday. So cool. So that's what we got going on there, man. Fred, it's your turn to talk. Let's learn about who you are. Where exactly are you in Estonia? You talked to me about it last time we caught up, but it's
Right, right, right,
definitely
right.
not the most easy to remember. So where you at?
So, as you all probably know, where Estonia is, it's because it's such a grandiose country and has made such big waves in Southwestern history.
Oh yeah,
I'm basically in the middle of the big thing right there, just like within 150 kilometers, which obviously you know how far it is, right? Um, to any point in Estonia. So right in the center, man.
that's awesome. So that's like what, 60, 70 US miles in any direction you can get anywhere
And
in Estonia?
wrong.
80, 90? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's 1.6, right? That's the magic number you have to keep in mind. So a mile is a 1.6 kilometers.
That's right.
So if I'm saying like 160 kilometers to any point, it's probably 100 miles.
93. So anyway, we get your lessons on metric systems from these Europeans because
Yeah, man, you need
yeah,
it, right?
yeah, man. Didn't you have to learn a ton of imperial system and miles and feet and inches just to kind
Nah,
of operate here in
I
America?
didn't. No, I didn't have to learn anything. I just winged it.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, that sounds about right. Right. Cool. Yeah, man. Well, dude, you're one of our first Estonians to grace the podcast. What would you say is like the biggest thing that you saw Estonia's place in Southwestern history? Because you mentioned it, like Estonia made a huge dent, right? How did all that happen? Was it like all was it Chris Adams, right, that had a heavy hand in you one? Was it
No, man, Chris Adams actually kind of took over from Alan Coomber, who was
ah
initially our org leader and who hired us. And it was actually our Estonian students themselves that hired the majority and trained the majority. And we, as a group, collectively grew because we had this very intense inner desire to be, at least at the same level as the US spoke
yeah,
people. I mean, Mort for us was just absolute bonkers at first when we started selling books. Nobody could conceptually conceive how it's been done,
right.
and nobody had an idea how to produce a Mort week. So there
Right.
was this myth like, hey, you're gonna sell Mort and this and that, and everybody was collectively sort of like holding in the energy. It was circled around. Everybody's like Mort, 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 and so it kind of grew and grew and grew, and so Mort, 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 and eventually it happened. I
Yeah.
happened to be the first one from Estonia to break it.
What? Dude, that's
What, what,
awesome.
what, what? Yep,
Whoop
man.
whoop. Yeah. Remember the pony. Let's go more. Heck
I
yeah.
remember. I actually remember my very last customer of my first Mort week, who I had as well. It was actually about 10-ish. I was driving around in uh, southeastern Illinois, country, Amish country at that time. It was a big Amish community, but there were a few hundred of them there. And I actually made this, I don't know if it was a mistake or whatnot, but I calculated my units and I saw that I was freaking 3 units short from Mort.
Of course,
so
right?
so what do you do when you discover that you're freaking 3 units short from Mort? It's kind of
Go
rhymes
sell
too.
Moonfu, right?
Uh, yeah, except you know it was quite late, so I knew the Amish guys up because
Right.
they're always up late. I don't know why, and I just started knocking on those Amish people's doors, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come back some other time. We are just having our what Rumspringa or whatever they were mentioning some weird expressions, and I didn't understand what they were doing. But I got
Yeah.
blown off from 5 or 6 of them, I remember, and I ended up knocking at this Amish house that had a library in a greenhouse.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was a library. I thought it was a greenhouse, and I ended up knocking on that door around 11ish.
Yeah.
So I knocked on that door, and the house was full of life. People were still up. The kids were just very curious to see who was coming to the door, and the husband, to my surprise, invited me in. And I was thinking, man, is fate being generous to me here? Is this really it? Like, is this it? And I
Right.
was just trying to hold myself back, not to get too overly excited. I thought if I'm not going to sell anything there, it's going to be my wasted 20 minutes and I'll go back to sleep at home afterwards. So it was a make or break deal, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, Dad was pretty open to it and explained to me that yes, he has a library, Amish library, and he really loves to just try things out. Just order a set and then kind of go from there. If the set fits, then order more sets. And he was into Amish literature, so our family Bible library set caught his attention. I didn't know what to say or how to explain it much because I haven't sold any,
Yeah.
but the book kind of caught his attention, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, normally we just want to just have this set here and to review it, and then we'll decide if we buy it. Do you have a spare set you can leave?" And I was like, "Oh, here we go. If I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
Right.
leave anything for free, it's gone." And I said, "Hey, I don't have it. Sorry." And I think it's okay if we go ahead and buy a set then. And
There
that's how
you
that
go.
went.
Woo! There you
I
go.
was I was actually not really joyous yet because I just wanted to double check and recount the units. After I did that in the car, I was pretty happy, but I knew that just one time won't make it, so I had to repeat it.
Did you do it the next week, or did it take a while after that again?
You know, from there on, it's pretty blur. I think there was 1 week in between, and then I did the 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, I repeated it. I remember we were competing with another bookman from Estonia, Ranol Kaseväli.
Ah,
Um,
he's got quite the reputation. He had quite the career.
yeah, well, he was selling longer than me, and he
Yeah.
actually made his best sales after I had left. But I remember him just selling to Mort a week after me, and
Nice.
so after that, the race was on. And I think Alice also sold close to Mort or Mort. I don't remember, but I remember, yeah, being the first one for sure. And I think Alice even came in second, and Ronald managed to sell more at the end of the summer. But that's based on my hazy old memory, so I might be wrong here.
What year was that?
That must have been my fifth summer. So
Yeah.
we're looking at 2005 or 2006. I'm not sure.
Okay. Cool. And where were you selling that summer? Do you remember?
Maybe 2007. I don't know. Who cares?
Somewhere in there. Where
I
were you
was
selling?
selling around Effingham, Illinois.
Illinois. That's right.
Yes.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. So was there like a ton of people that were able to take on that belief barrier and go hit more like the next summer, or was it just the three of you that summer? Right.
Yeah, it was the three of us only to
Yep.
just break the barriers. But and I actually remember the following summer, us three being the main guys as well. But after that, it kind of took a life of its own, and that was when I actually left. I sold one
Mm,
more summer after that, and I left. But it kind of took a life of its own, and Maret breaking the belief barriers, and
mm.
I think it kind of sort of got mingled and twinkled, intertwined with the Bulgarians as well. Because I know that the Bulgarian guys and girls were coming to Estonia often to have these explosion seminars and
Oh
meetings.
yeah.
So I think that's how it kind of affected them as well. And they went out with a mojo and made some really, 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 really big summers, right?
Oh yeah. Company records belong in Bulgaria right now. The last two company record breakers. So it's
Right
pretty
on.
crazy stuff. Um,
Godspeed, man.
Yeah, right. Do spreading the good word. Sharing the good study guides. So, um, let's go back to that first summer of yours. Then, what was like the story of how you got recruited? Because there was no more man or woman in Estonia. When you first started, and so what was the conversation like? What how was the travel and getting over to America? And kind of give us
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
whole rundown
Hmm.
of how you got started.
So I was pretty disappointed in college education in Estonia.
Yeah.
I didn't see the point of learning academically things. I had this inner desire of doing and learning by doing.
Yeah.
And I just felt going to college didn't really teach me any necessary life skills. So I was pretty disappointed. I had tried like seven, no, wait a minute, six different colleges by that time. And
Wow.
yeah, it was the same thing all over again. I was like, oh, not here again. Now, keep in mind, by trying, I mean, I had tried to get in and I had either gotten in or gotten rejected. I remember gotten into at least three of them, but my search for colleges continued after my Southwestern start because I still, had this mm, thought in my mind that you have to go to college, you have to go
Of
to
course.
college. So,
Yeah.
but actually, looking back, my mind had made up its preferences already, and so yeah, I guess I was renting an apartment. My family rented me an apartment in Tartu, southern Estonia,
Yeah.
and I was just lazy bumming, just not going to school, just I don't know what, drawing, learning arts, doing stupid stuff, hanging out with college mates. And at one point, this good friend of mine from high school calls, Katrin Aron, who is currently, I think, the CEO of a real estate company. Might be wrong there, in Estonia. And she said, "Hey, this is this great opportunity that I gave to Jaak, and he's gonna call you soon, and just say yes." And that's it. I didn't even understand what the opportunity, where, and just about 5 minutes after that call or something, Jaak calls and introduces himself, Jaak Roosaare that is, and says, "Hey, yeah, Fred. So Katrin Aron said I should call you, and you would be a good candidate." And they got me on a hook. I went to the what do you call it now? A pitch,
Info
a
session.
demo. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I was pretty hooked because I knew I wasn't. I felt the salesy thing right away, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there because they were kind of conning me into this. But I felt like this is really where I get to actually learn things that matter.
Yeah.
I felt like this is where I can actually be in the front lines and just do some really crazy stuff. And I knew straight away I was gonna be successful. For some reason, I knew straight away, and I dove in with huge passion
Yeah.
right away. And my first summer, when I said yes to Yak and yes, I'm your guy, I'm gonna come and eventually sign the DA and whatnot. We didn't have the money actually in my family to for me to just travel, spend like $3,000 or $4,000 on plane tickets and have spare cash to spend that was required at that time. So my dad actually managed to sell a huge bunch of aluminum. He was working at an aluminum factory, and he said, "Yes, son, I trust you. I'll give you the money." I was like, "What? Crazy!" I was
Dude.
never like I played along until the point where you had to pay actually for things, and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna get the money. Maybe I won't, right? But my dad actually agreed to this,
That's awesome.
and this also boosted my confidence because I saw that, you know, he saw the confidence. He saw the confidence from my eyes that I want to go there and I'm ready to do this, and just wanted me to have my path in life,
Mhm.
you know, pushed forward a little bit. So yeah, that was my recruiting process. I went to sales school. I was amazed by the American energy, whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Um, we had to buy cars straight away with me and my roommate. We went to Iowa to buy a rusty old station wagon, a Chevy
Nice.
Celebrity, and so we had a car. We were rolling. rolling deep, right? So we were doing it, right? Car, HQ, boom. We got the HQ through a Baptist pastor in Quincy, Illinois, where Mark Twain lived. Bam,
Nice.
bam, bam. So we were like, we were on it. We were just milking it. We felt like, woohoo, guys. We're just rocking. Just boom. Things are happening right the way they should.
Yes.
And by the time I actually hit the book field my first day, I only had about $6 or $7 left to spend. So
So you had to make some money.
basically it was a yeah, make some money or don't eat tomorrow, or eat tomorrow and don't eat the day after if I don't make any money the next day after tomorrow as well.
Right.
So I had to sell something. I had this pressure like, hey, I need to sell something, otherwise I'm just broke, right?
Where were you that
And
first time?
Quincy, Illinois.
Okay, gotcha. That's what you're saying. Clear.
hmm Quincy, Illinois. And they told me, and I still read, that it's the place where Mark Twain used to live.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's the guy who wrote Huckleberry Finn, right?
yes.
Okay, so I got this one right. It's
Yes,
just, no,
you
you
did.
never know. There's so many famous authors nowadays.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
and so I went to sell, and my first day out, I was in downtown ghetto of Quincy. Didn't make any sales. Got run around here and there. People said come back later. I actually went back so many times, and I remember again the last customer, a homeschooler. Gosh, yes, she was sold on the handbooks and she was a weak customer. She gave me $25. Those were the best $25 I've ever received in my life because I was off the hook, man. I was like, yes, food for at least 5 days because you can get a $5 breakfast in the States.
Yeah,
So
let's
I was
go.
covered, man. I was covered. And the next days, man, I started rocking it, man. I was like, the next day it was 13 units solid, actually. Then it was like
Heck
30
yeah.
something. So I ended my first week, I think just about 100 units sold. And
Heck yeah. That's
yeah,
enough to get you a lot of confidence into week two, right?
yep, yep, yep. Straight up right after I kept down the pace of 160, 180 for the whole summer. And my last week was actually the best where I sold over 300 units. So I was like,
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
man,
I
finish
want to
strong.
win. I want to
Right,
win.
right, right, right. There was like so many, I don't know, adventures happening on the book field that uh, I mean, I knew that it was going to be fun. I mean, in that regards, that stuff's going to happen you don't
Right.
expect. But it was, I guess, it was pretty intense even for me, even to my expectations.
Really? So
Uh,
yeah, being that culture shock of coming to America, and you were saying you were working in the ghetto of Quincy, Illinois,
right.
and you were able to, catch fire and do some stuff. But what was that culture shock like for you?
Uh, you know, I don't know, man, but maybe it's my quirk, but I don't get culture shocks. I get,
Cool.
I don't know, culture enthusiasm or something.
Heck yeah.
Um, it was a combination of culture enthusiasm, but at the same time, no, I mean, I would be lying if I would say that. I didn't get a culture shock at all, actually. It was just
Cool.
about, like, wow, this shit is so different. People are just like, having completely different value points, and they are talking to me in terms I do not understand. Like, people were really saying to me stuff like, I had learned English and I knew English, but they were like terms like slang languages. You do like,
Yeah,
hook you up. I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do? Just like a murderer, hook me on the hooks in the ceiling? Like I didn't understand shit.
of
Sorry,
course. No,
beep.
you can cuss. It's
I didn't
uncensored here.
understand stuff like that. So I was like, what the heck are they talking about, man? They are hooking me up somewhere. I don't know. They wanted to pop me. They asked me if you want to pop. I'm like, no. What is popping? I don't want you to pop me,
That's
right?
so funny.
And so
Oh my
they
god.
came up with those two soda cans and like, oh, is that a pop? I thought you're gonna pop. I mean, that was just like learning stuff all day long, and
Yeah,
I
man.
actually
That's so
developed
funny.
the habit of even first year. It's just so fun to do things wrong, and I even developed the habit of starting to ask if you have a pop or something. So I just collected pops all day long, and it was just like I don't know, hundreds of them in my car at the end of the week, which nobody had to drink, wanted to
Wow.
drink anymore. So but stuff like that was like motivating or exciting to me, like, oh wow, you can actually go door to door here and you can actually collect sodas and they're filled, not empty.
That's
So-
so yeah, they're big,
right,
especially at the gas station. So
yeah,
drinking soda.
the gas station.
Yeah, when you go to a gas station, you can get like a 64-ounce big gulp,
Oh,
soda
yeah.
of
No,
pop.
we didn't have those back then when I was selling. It was just the small ones for some reason.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know why nobody gave me a big one. I never wondered to.
well,
It's
that's
weird.
probably
Yeah.
because you didn't get them at the gas station, but
Right.
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 So
Right.
you you
Right.
uh, you got to enjoy that culture shock with enthusiasm, right?
Right. 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 And I mean, kids were loving me. Parents were loving me. I was the cool guy in the neighborhood. Like I
Nice.
had so many. Even my first year, kids were like, "Wow, let's help Fred. Let's stop by. He's trying his bike. Let's just honk the horn." Another thing is like honk the horn. I was scared of this expression. Like, what are you gonna? I know what horny means, right? So you're gonna honk my horn, or what is going on here again, right? I mean, those expressions really I got me confused at first. I was just nodding along, but I was thinking like, what the hell, man?
Wow.
So
I, that's
it was
hilarious.
fun. It was a huge fun for me, and I was really enthusiastic to go to work. I never had some kind of problem mentally, at least in Quincy. But we did have to relocate in the middle of the summer because my roommate quit and I had the car. So I bought the car from him and I actually traveled to
Okay.
Illinois, the same place I was selling
Yeah.
uh, summer before my last summer.
Yeah.
And
Where you eventually hit more.
yes, now, yeah, it more actually in a deeper southern region, but
Sure.
straight away in Effingham, I was assigned country for a first year, and that can f you up, man. Because you're
Tell
used
me
to
about
having
it.
a house just like 60 feet away and just running between houses or
Oh
driving
yeah.
a bike, but
Oh
there
yeah.
I
For
am,
biking for sure.
right, and there I am just driving in this deep Illinois Effingham red country and just
Oh
knocking
yeah.
on doors. But once I get over the shock of just changing into a completely different environment and
Very.
seeing way, way less people than I saw in Quincy, Illinois, the sales were stronger, even stronger than in the city. And I started
Yeah.
actually loving the country by the middle of the summer, I would say.
Country turf is most of the turf that I ever worked in books, and
Mm,
it took me like a year or two after books to finally see what working city turf was like with a different industry. So
okay.
super, super interesting. Going the opposite way around for me, like I almost struggle with city turf. I love the ability to connect and have fun, make jokes with rural folk who don't have that same urgency and they don't know their neighbors. They know everybody, right? So
Right.
I love,
Yeah,
I love.
country is fun. I loved it too. I mean, it was just such a freedom to do whatever you want. I mean, you could do whatever. Like once I went swimming in a random lake butt naked, right? Because
Nice.
I had a lunch break and nobody was home. Who cares, right? So you could do that. Yeah, and there's this opportunity of actually seeing the land, seeing the US land. That's
Yeah,
priceless. I mean, I've sold in Florida country, I've sold in Illinois country, I've sold in Oregon country, and the country is really worth seeing. It's like a different environment, climate zone.
it is. It's quite literally the ecosystem that the city stamps down and gets rid of, and
Hmm.
you might as well just go out and enjoy it, breathe the fresh air, all that.
Right. And there's a funny story, I guess, that hooks with my previous cultural experiences, which was with the corn, right? The huge corn that was growing everywhere in Illinois. Like we all thought at first, this is actually edible corn, like this is some kind of sweet corn or something.
Yeah.
So this one point when I went to it's one day only when I went to sell books. I didn't pack my lunch because I was thinking, hey, so much corn ready now. I just eat a bunch of those and be done
Oh,
with it, right? And you
okay.
probably know how this turned out, right? I
Yeah.
didn't manage to crack or knack or even bite one piece of that corn, and
You gotta
I
suck
just
it first, man.
I was starving basically the whole day.
Yeah. Well, you learn the lesson the next day, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was just part of the experiment, right? You had to try it. Like maybe this corn is edible. Why would I trust anybody telling me anything when I can try?
Yeah, you are, really digging your ability to learn by experience.
Right.
So, okay, that first summer was pretty solid. It sounds like you sold, enough to hit Sizzler and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
were you pretty hooked and you wanted to go recruit a ton of people, or was it like, okay, I'm one, and they had to convince you to come back?
No, I would say was pretty hooked. I mean, I wanted to do a big thing. What I wanted to do the most, I wanted to be a guy who will manage to sell more. So I knew that my career over there is not going to stop before I managed to do one of the two, either recruit a 10-person team in one year or sell more. So I knew that I wasn't going to stop before that.
That's awesome. You went and did it, man. So
Yeah.
how did that second summer turn out?
The second summer was a bust.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had, I think, 8 people in my team, so not
Oh,
quite
wow.
10. Went to Florida, and
Yeah.
not just some Florida, but down south in Miami, like super high rolling Floridians.
Yeah.
Um, it was crazy. I mean, I managed to actually find a solid country turf over there. It was called acreage. So it was
Okay.
this huge subdivision where each lot was an acre, and I mean
Yeah.
there were gates, but you just go in and deal with whatever comes out. Some people were angry that you trespass, but it's just part of Floridian turf, I guess.
Right.
But my rookies that came with me and my managers, they just crashed and burned because they had these high end subdivisions that were just killing them. Like they were getting slammed. And so my org took a huge beating, so to say, this summer, and more than half of them actually quit.
Right. Dang.
Amongst them was the Estonian previous uh, summer's record first year,
Oh, really?
who was my co-manager, co-OL, so to say. Yeah, she managed to sell, I think, 3,500 units by the end of her first summer, and I did like 2,800.
Yeah.
But she basically was out of gas by the end of second week and quit on the fourth, I think.
Ooh, that's
And
brutal.
that's pretty brutal for. I noticed Chris Adams took it pretty bad because
I
I
imagine.
think he still considered it his biggest mistake not being able to keep Mariana in the loop.
Mm. Yikes, man.
Yeah.
So you
So
learned a lot that summer then, right?
we were a burner org. Yes, we didn't produce much, but I still managed to hit the growth and be on
Nice.
the Sizzler trip.
Yeah.
I think I sold. I think there was two rules for growth, right? One was you grow 1,100 units, and the other
Mhm.
was you have to sell over a certain limit. I think I sold over a
Yeah.
certain limit. I didn't get my 1,100, and I was on
Right.
Sizzler based on that. But Florida was, eye-opening in regards that it told me that, yeah, never go to Florida, at least not to sell door to door.
Not in Miami, man. South Florida is a murder's
Yes,
row, right? I'm up here in Gainesville, and this has been my favorite turf I've ever knocked. People are open, friendly, they're curious, and everybody knows everybody. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. They all care about the same college in town, so
right,
it's
right.
pretty.
And I got the worst part of Florida right away. What's up with that, right? And I know that Florida's not that bad as my second
Right.
summer taught me, right? Because I was in the hottest zone you can throw an org into, right? But
Yeah.
Florida's actually great. Gainesville, Jacksonville. I think there's a Disneyland somewhere there as well. So it must be
Orlando.
great. If there's a Disneyland, Disney World, whatever they call it nowadays, it must be great, right?
Oh, it must be.
Right.
Absolutely. Something like that, right? Well, that second summer, what would you say was like a standout lesson when you learned something like that? Because a lot of people in the company love to say turf doesn't matter. It's all about the turf between your ears. But when the turf between your ears cannot process and function the turf outside your ears, like what did you like learn that turf matters and you kind of,
Yeah,
inspect your turf
that's what I
accordingly?
learned. I learned
Yeah.
that turf actually matters, and it actually still does. If anybody's wondering if I've changed that perspective, because you have your own, individual quirks. You cannot just operate out of yourself within few months, and a turf sort of has to be fitting to your background. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be exactly something like exactly, this kind of city that suits you, but it has to be mentally aligned, if that makes sense.
it does. Because
Yes.
otherwise you're a fish out of water.
Pretty much. You're dealing with so many things. You'll probably get there eventually, but it might take years,
Right.
which you don't have.
Not in a 3 month summer.
Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately not.
Well, I mean, you're also coming over from Estonia, so like, what was the kind of turf that Estonians kind of had the right mental over time that you saw that they performed best in?
Well, I guess it still comes down to the personality quirks.
Yeah,
It has
of
to match
course.
the background. For me specifically, I can say that I was, after my second summer onwards, I was looking for a small city country area, and I knew that I could kill it in whatever part of the US I would be dropped
Right.
into. Like anywhere where I see small towns surrounded with country, it's just like, okay, we can sell there, right? Check,
Oh,
number one. Number two would be, okay, has there any big producers being selling there recently? So if those two flags check out, I know I'm in more territory basically.
yeah. So you like
And I
killing
gue- and
everybody.
and I guess this was seeded in my third summer. Like this is when I actually started caring about, you know, just choosing stuff for myself, not
Mhm.
just going in with an open heart. Like, hey, yeah, fuck yeah, I can do anything. Southern Florida, bring it on. I'll crack you. But I was like, okay, so this is what I would like to do. I would like to go to a country turf. I didn't want to recruit many people due to the result of my second summer.
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't want to recruit any afterwards for my third summer. I just wanted to go in by myself, and I had just one rookie, basically just get my shit together for my
Yeah.
mental breakdown, identity crisis and whatnot. And thinking back of it, I think it did produce some sort of an identity crisis that summer in Florida, because I was basically just right after the second summer, I was preparing my body and my mind for the third summer, and I wouldn't let go. I wouldn't let go of this experience that I had in Florida. Like this is not the reality. This is not the end of it. I do not accept that we crashed and burned.
Mhm.
There's brighter future ahead, and I'm gonna fight for it. That was the mentality I used home
Little too
throughout.
focused on the past, do you think, or was it sufficient
Um,
motivation?
I guess pushed by past to think for the future to be a brighter experience. That's the correct wording.
Yeah.
So I did. I was very focused on myself and just wanted to make sure that I could wash over this negative experience with something positive from the book field. And third summer is where it sort of clicked for me. I actually started really knowing and figuring out how to sell a lot within a week in country.
Love it. Yeah. And so you said you sold all over the US. Do you have like a favorite turf? Maybe it's Florida, maybe it's not. Maybe it's Quincy, Illinois.
Uh, right now, I would say just based on the climate and the working conditions, it would be high plateau, Central Oregon, just
Ah,
because of the dry heat, super climate. Could be somewhere in California, an area similar to this climate, but based on just the weather and just the way of being, like it's never too hot, and the sun is always up, and it's almost no rain.
yeah.
Central Oregon is a dream turf for me.
Mm. You see, you described that, and I kind of had the same, dream turf in New York, but it was super rainy. So, what you
But
just
you loved
described,
it.
I loved it. It was like shooting fish in a barrel, man. Everyone was like, "We hate our governor. He's trying to push the Common Core education on us. We want your book so you can help us help our
Nice,
kids."
nice.
So,
And if you actually cover your head with it, it doesn't rain on you.
oh no way.
You could have sold that. I mean, the books, the handbooks, you just open them up, you put them on
Oh,
your head, and you don't get wet.
were
That
you were you
you
like?
missed the point there. You should have used that.
Hey, that's a
They would
good
have
point.
they would have laughed at least, man, and that actually opens a lot of doors by
I didn't
itself.
want to demo the use of protecting from the rain because I'd ruin my sample book.
It's all right. You'll learn.
Oh yeah, we always had that rain day sample anyway. But
Right.
yeah, the Oregon turf sounds like a dream. You said you spent 6 summers. First three were in Illinois, Florida, and then that third summer, where did you say that was?
Princeton, Northern Illinois, border
Ah,
with Wisconsin.
gotcha. And was there like a ton of memorable stories from these third, fourth, fifth summers, or you say they all blend together
Uh,
just a little bit?
I'd say I was just smooth sailing after my third summer, or even from the middle of my third summer. There weren't any, highlights from that era. I just was super focused, made a ton of money. I mean,
Yeah.
just focused on sales. I didn't let anyone or anything really sidetrack me throughout those years. So
Right.
I can't really say they were eventful in that regards. But the experience itself and just being in focus for so long, I mean, it required me to be actually in focus throughout the school year as well, not just the summer. It
Yeah.
paid huge dividends, like massive dividends for me at least. So it was worth it, absolutely worth it. I would sign off on this again, anytime, any day, any
So
night.
if you would do it anytime, any day again, what led you to leave?
I guess it was just a feeling of becoming self aware, developing my own sales persona, and really coming out of the sales school and sales teachings and developing sort of my own identity, agenda, way to sell. And that was one point. I felt like I could really use my own way of selling to and just take it to another level when I would go into a different environment, like selling
Right.
some high end things or like transfer and enhance my sales skills. I felt like they could be enhanced in book sales, but it wouldn't be as fast as somewhere else.
Right. It's a great foundation. It's not the end all be all of every sales technique and way of making, like you said, a high end product, high ticket product is you don't have to sell 300 customers to hit 50,000 in earnings.
Mhm.
So there's
Right.
just a completely
Plus,
different world out there.
I was looking at the way how sales managers actually live and what's their
Yeah,
mojo is all about, how their schedule is. And I was really thinking, like, I really don't want to become a sales manager. I don't really
yeah.
want to live like that. That was another huge push for me.
It's a hard thing for most people to stomach when they get into that role. Um, what was the level of like sales leadership that you reached with your organization? How many people did you wind up recruiting over time, or so? Do you remember those numbers?
I didn't recruit much with my first team, and all the following years. It came to about 15, I
Cool.
think.
Yeah.
But thinking back now, after my second summer, middle between after the second summer during the school year, is when I actually realized that wait a minute, do I really want an org actually, or has it been just sort of I've been letting this idea to be pushed upon me, and I realized that it has been the latter. So I made the decision then and there that since I really don't have passion to developing an org that much, just
Yeah.
becoming a skillful master of sales myself, I'll just leave it to that. Just take what I'm here for, take what I'm really, grateful for, and I want to achieve, and be done with it. And I guess after I started my third at the beginning of my third summer, I actually think the decision was already done that I'm not going to build an org. I still tried somewhere here and there because it would make sense money wise for our org.
Sure.
But I would say from the beginning of the third summer, my decision was solid that I will do the 10,000 units, and that's the way that I will break my commitment. I remember I told you in the beginning that I wanted to do either 10,000 units, or I didn't. I told you that I wanted to sell more, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there was another hook to it. I also wanted to do either 10,000 units a summer or recruit a 10-person
Person
team,
team. Yeah.
right? So I decided I'm going to do the former, 10,000 units, and I did it several times. I could have done it better and even more efficiently, I assume, if I would have stayed, but I just felt there is a faster way of developing sales skills
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Wow. So multiple 10,000 unit summers. You're so humble, Fred.
Thanks.
That's very impressive. You were the first Estonian to hit more. Was it Renault who sold the 10,000 units that summer, or did you also?
The first summer that I sold mort, I sold a total of 12,000 actually.
Ah, so you'd hit 10,000 the summer before that, huh?
Well, actually, the same summer. Wait, when I sold mort, yeah, the same summer when I hit mort, I actually sold 12,000. So my fifth summer was 12,000. My sixth summer was 10,000.
There you go. Okay.
And on my 10th summer, I know exactly what hindered me from achieving a higher unit score than the summer before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I was just doing some really like stupid stuff, but I'm not really, I'm not really regretting it or anything,
Of
because
course.
I had this feeling like, okay, this is getting to the point where I don't want to do this anymore, and I just got it. Started going to work at 10 a.m., just doing the gravy in the morning, then it's like coming back to the HQ after 12, staying in the HQ from 12 to 3, then going out again, catching the gravy. I would do that at least twice a week, all summer long, because I just felt like, okay, I know this stuff. I don't really, I didn't feel like there was this a desire in me to grow and to be even more productive in this. I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel my potential could be reached in this environment, and that's the reason why I decided after that summer time to move on to some other challenges where I can actually feel this, newcomer feeling again, like what's going on. I have to learn stuff, right?
Of course. Yeah. And before we talk about what that transition looked like, what would you say were some of the like proudest moments or best stories from that 6 summer experience that you'd want to kind of leave before we
Well,
transition to your
I
current work?
I guess I see where you're leading this. Yeah, I might as well tell it, I guess. So my first summer, it comes down to the first summers, because, like I told you before, later on everything just blends into this smooth sailing trajectory where it doesn't really, nothing pops up. Everything is so
Right.
smooth.
Yeah.
But my first summer's last customer was very special too. Um,
Yeah.
and she was the one that got me over 300 to I want to win and whatnot. So I was really grateful to her, and she was actually the one that I knocked on the door. It was again like 10 o'clock. Her husband was there, her kids were there, and she was just buying like 60 or 70 units at a time. So I was super grateful to her. She was
Wow.
like my star, and her name was actually, as funny as it sounds, but her name actually was first name Star, last name Shoot. So
Yeah.
shooting star.
That's awesome. Star shoot.
Right. And so she explained, yeah, it's my parents and whatnot, and they just were crazy. And I'm
Yeah.
actually from California, and she was working as a bank teller. And I didn't really pay attention much back then when she was buying books from me. I was just very grateful, and I was super, energetic and thankful. And I suppose it made an impression on her, because when I went back for delivery to her house, she acted very weird, like super weird. At first, she said, "Can you please come in from the back door, not the front door?" I was like, "Why would you come to the front door to tell me this?" I didn't get it, right. So I went in, and suddenly she starts buying stuff. Like she has a 60 unit package, and she starts
Wow.
buying stuff. Like she bought another 40 units on delivery and paid everything
Nice.
up front. So I was
Wow.
like, wow, super great. And she starts talking to me like, hey, I have this fantasy. Okay,
Oh.
interesting. I had this fantasy that somebody nice from a foreign country comes to me and does weird or interesting, or how did she? I don't remember how she said it. Does
Oh my
exciting things.
god.
Does exciting things to me.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, wow, really? So I'm a prostitute, right? You paid me, and you paid me up front. So it's either the sales or me, right? That's how it's
Wow.
been played here. That's what I was thinking. But actually, I was just so, tired from the summer, or I was just, at the end of the delivery as well. I was like, sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, what do you want me to do, right?
Oh my goodness.
and she
Wow.
was and she was like very straightforward. She was like, okay, so leave it back here and we'll go upstairs. I'm like, mm-hmm, yes, ma'am. So
Oh man.
they say all kinds of stuff in sales school. Don't to keep a rocket in your pocket.
Yes.
I guess I broke it. I broke it the first summer.
Ah,
Afterwards, I was sitting in my car. I remember myself sitting in a car. I bought some chocolate from Casey's, Twizzlers and the chocolate, and I remember myself parking my car just next to the Casey's and just eating the chocolate, sitting there quietly and just reflecting back on my life. It's just this moment that that get you back. Like this event was completely off bookfield. It was sort of like real life was knocking again. Hey,
oh yeah.
this is
The
how we
adventure
do
of
it.
being in America.
This
And
is how we do it over here.
yeah, right.
So I guess it was my official transition after my first summer to reality, back to reality.
Very interesting. What was that like in that was delivery week, you said, right?
Hmm.
Gosh,
Right, right, right. It was
finishing the
fun. I
summer.
mean, I don't regret anything. I even shared the story to my roommates, and they were like, "Crazy! What did you do?" But I was like, "Yeah, well, this is the last customer, the last delivery. Who cares, right?"
Yeah, man, you got to finish the summer with a bang.
She was hot though. I was really attracted to her as well. I mean, it couldn't have happened if she would have been some, standard Mrs. Jones, which doesn't fit.
I didn't want to ask, but I suppose
No,
thanks for
I
sharing.
like that's the reason why it happened. I would have straight up told no to her
Right,
otherwise.
right.
But she was young and she was actually pretty.
Oh my God.
That's we had chemistry definitely from the beginning of
Yeah,
our meeting.
yeah.
Got right after, like right at the first time when we meet when she bought
Well,
the
you
package.
were fulfilling her fantasy, so of course.
Yeah, that's kind of the guy that I tend to be nowadays. Whenever whatever needs to be done, I just do it, right? Okay, so
Wow.
what is your problem? What are your issues? Okay, let me try to help you here.
There you
Let me try to help you.
go. That's how you get them. That's so funny. I know there's plenty of other experiences like that, which to me is just bonkers. It's funny that you get to share. I love the vulnerability. You're just like whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
any
kind
other,
of the vibe.
was that like the standout story of like your whole
I would say it's
stuff?
the standout story because there were other points in time where people I could feel them, especially females, getting attracted to me. Some males probably too. I didn't sense it too well, but I could sense you just meet such a plethora of people, and some of them, are going to be attracted to you. There's no
Of
escaping
course.
that. Well, unless you're completely ugly creep, which fortunately I wasn't born as. So I did have the luxury of some female attraction
Yeah.
on the book field, and but I remember being absolutely professional about it, even telling them I understand how you feel, but I have to catch the next house. Like I remember being super professional, super open and honest about it, and they would understand it like, wow, you're such a great guy. Godspeed,
Wow.
go get him, guy. And that's how it kind of went. They didn't have a chance. My focus was just so on the thing, the
Didn't have a
sales,
chance.
getting, doing the schedule. So
That's so,
until my last summer, of course, my last summer I was slacking off.
oh
But then
yeah.
like I explained to you, I went to sell books occasionally
Hmm.
from, early 10 to noon, and then came home from noon to 3, and then went back at 3. So I was slacking. I had some little bit more spare time there,
True statement.
but for some reason I didn't get any you know attractive females or males on my way at that period of time.
Something changed, but I guess you're not complaining too much about it, right?
No,
Um,
not at all.
curious, Fred, about how you finished that 10,000 unit summer, your sixth summer. You were still involved in Southwestern after that summer, right?
Yeah, I was probably even thinking about going back until the very beginning of the summer,
Okay.
and
Hear
uh,
about
and my journey is actually uh, quite deep in that regard. So this will take a little bit time to kind of break it down and explain you why I made the decisions that I made at that point in time.
it.
So
Right.
bear with me here.
We have talked about
Uh,
that. You have a question,
so
Fred.
yeah,
Is it okay if we give a quick shout out and then we'll get into that? Does that sound okay?
yeah, sounds
All
okay to
right.
me, man.
Well, because what you're about to do is you're about to give a TED talk, basically. So, um,
Wow.
one of our sponsors, Dillon Barr with Thought Leader, what his role is fulfillment of like customer expectations and hiring on sales reps. So what Dylan's doing, he sold for I think 5 6 summers. Total stud of a guy out of Michigan, and so you can work virtual with him. They've exclusively partnered with us to try and find the right book people to basically take on a job where all you do is help people land a TED Talk. So Thought Leader, what they do is when you land the TED Talk, you can actually help the people develop, an authentic voice. Send a message that they're very passionate about with, excellence in delivery. But yeah, I don't know, Fred, if you could give a TED Talk, what would you give a TED Talk on?
You know what? I would probably lean towards mental clarity,
Hmm.
um, a healthy mind
Hmm.
that drives the rest of your life.
I love it. Yeah.
Hmm.
If you maybe you know Fido, do you know like Omar Uribe and Redline, Ron Alford, those people?
Ron, I do not run. You can
Yeah.
check that box for me, right? Boom.
Boom, right there. Yeah, name drop. So one of Ron's recruits that actually lived with Ron his first summer, Fido, he just gave a TED talk. He'll be on
Mm.
our show here soon, and we're promoting, um, of course, working with thought leader. But what he was able to do is give a talk about mindfulness and mental clarity and peace and breathing. He's very passionate in the same realm of thought, so I love it. But
Hmm.
for anybody
Hmm.
interested, they have opening positions in the $50,000 to $70,000 salary range. So this is a salary job. If you're not like hip to commission near as much, you can get a salary with bonuses. They also have a sales job where you close customers to give TED talks, and that's like $130,000 to $200,000 job right there. So we love partnering with Dillon. He's been bringing the fire every time we meet on those Derby meetings. If you want to learn more about those, check him out. But yeah, thank you all for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway, the next
So,
one that
are you giving a TED talk yourself, Nick?
not yet. Like having talked with Dillon and learning about his company, I like keep thinking about it in the back of my head. Like maybe I should because I
So,
would love to.
what would be your main topic?
So I know that there's so many different subtopics I could like file into. Of course, sustainability and things involving solar energy and overall how we use and shift resources across the planet. I'm not the four expert in that field, but I have an
Yet.
idea of yet, right? So maybe that's what's involved in my climb to TED Talk fame is reading a bunch of books and talking about the planet and how we interact with it. So that's obviously pretty important for a lot of people, and we can talk a bit about climate crises and stuff and make this podcast sad since we're both working in the solar industry. For those who don't know, he is doing some work with some solar Estonian folk over there. But
Hmm.
yeah, that would be my TED Talk, something along those lines.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But
So, I guess it's natural to continue from here on. Do you want to do another ad?
yes,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
there's
Go ahead.
there's three total. I forgot to prep you on that. So thought leader, let's get in touch with Dillon with Southwestern Real Estate. Wearing their shirt right now. Shout out to Patrick Roach. You know that name, right, Fred?
I do know, Pat.
Yeah, so he's awesome to work with, as a sponsor for our show. But everyone that we've interviewed from Southwestern Real Estate, like Meredith Gardner, now Meredith Kelly, Chris Q, Grant Greeter, there's oh gosh, Just DeVries and her husband Zach. Um, there's been a ton of people that we've interviewed in the run of this show, and everybody just loves working with Pat because what he's done with real estate is cleaned up the mediocrity in his corner of the business because 85% or more of people who get licensed as agents in real estate don't even last a year. And so they have the opposite where 85 or 90% or so of their agents have stayed on and all gone on to make six figures and do amazing things. So the thing that we love about Pat and what we give him our big stamp of confidence in is that we know you're going to succeed with Pat if you fit into the culture and step up and follow the awesome system that they have in place. So if you're interested in selling real estate, it's been really cool to learn by living and working with some of the real estate agents. They have a really cool warm network that they build. It's not cold sales on real estate at all, and it's very dependable. You actually start out with a salary as well with a base for commission. So let's get you in touch with Pat for that job. And then the last shout out again is Cardinal Senior Benefits. So I'm blown
Bam.
away. I'm blown away by the amount of support that these guys have been giving us. They're doing incredibly well, which is why they have 3 ad spots on our podcast. We love working with Quentin in particular. So Quentin Roberts, again, he's a 7 summer bookman. So he, Pedro Vega, Nick Dale, They've doubled or tripled in growth every year since they started 4 years ago. So relatively new, but they've got tons of momentum. Again, these guys do zero cold calling or prospecting. They actually work warm, fresh leads that get mailed in to the company. And so because of that, kind of ease of introduction to the sale to the client, you're only working 25 to 35 hours a week. And so these people are doing a heavy recruiting push, right? $500 referral bonus for yourself or a friend. And if Ponytails helps Cardinal hire 5 people, we're getting close. We're at like 3 so far or so, or 2 or 3. Then we actually get to give a giveaway for a free ticket to BIZZLER, right? So if you want to go to Mexico on Cardinal Senior Benefits dime, let's get some recruits up in here, and we'll get you hooked up. So shout out to those guys. Thanks for your patience, Fred. I had to sneak that in there. It wasn't very sneaky, but let's hear
Yeah, man,
about the
patience. Patience
transition.
is the key.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And speaking of patience, you learned quite a bit about patience from what I understand in how you left Southwestern, because has a lot to do with exploring meditative practices and spirituality and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm. It was KJ and one of my friends that first mentioned Vipassana meditation to me. My friend that actually
Kevin
mentioned it to
Johnson.
me, Kevin Johnson, yeah.
Nice.
So he and one of my friends, Kevin actually mentioned has a speech in Explosion seminar, or was it the what's usually the annual Friday ceremony? It's the Great Recruiter seminar, right?
You got it. Yeah.
He gave us a speech about how he took a Vipassana 10-day course, and I was like, wow, I want to do this. And my friend actually, who had been to those courses in India, reinforced upon that information, said, yes, yes, go do it, go do it, go do it. So it was right after my third summer, going into fourth. Just before my fourth summer, I took a 10-day course of Vipassana at Pecatonica, Illinois, which is also at the northern border with Wisconsin and close to Wisconsin Illinois border, basically. And for me, this was like a total aha moment where things just opened up and the world started making sense, and I actually uh, was about to find myself, so to say.
Hmm.
And I would say this was a part of the reason for my success in becoming successful right after that. Because right after that, when I went to the bookfield, straight away I sold 400, and I had never sold more than 300 before. It was my,
Wow.
yes, no, might have been even higher. I don't remember. No, I actually think on the fourth summer, my first week was about 400, and my second was over 640 right away. So President's
Nice.
Club,
Yeah.
and I kept President's Club or Chairman's for the rest of the summer afterwards.
Wow.
So it was a huge bump in sales, and uh, yeah, I started just going to those Vipassana courses. Whenever I went to GRS, I went to one, and whenever I had the beginning of the summer, I took one as well. So by now, I've sat like 30 10-day courses where you're supposed to be completely silent and observe your
Yeah.
sensations.
Interesting.
And it's really just basically, I wouldn't say it's any kind of information you're listening or opening yourself up to over there, but it's just going to the gym, the mind gym, so to say, because they give instructions. Okay, so you have to keep your mind in the present, and the way to keep it in the present is to bring it back to the breath at first and later observe the sensations. So you're not supposed to let your mind wander, and when you do that super intensely for 10 days in a row, this will sort of rupture from within, because you're not allowed to do anything else except sit, eat, sleep, and meditate. And when you do
Yeah.
that for such a lengthy period, well, lengthy not actually, but lengthy for a casual soul, 10 days in a row, it actually ruptures your soul, so to say, and brings out the hidden pieces
Wow.
that have been just covered with bullshit, basically.
What? I've never
Yes,
heard
yes.
anybody explain it that way. Because when we connected just a few weeks ago, we talked a lot about this stuff.
Hmm.
Vipassana meditation. They have for those checking us out on screen. You can watch on Spotify, YouTube. You got it spelled down there. They have centers all across the U.S. Right,
Right.
where people can go and have these. It's 10 days, right? 10-day meditative
10 days
practices.
to begin with.
Yeah, and then they have a lot more after that. You said you've done 30 of them.
Yes, and I've served in about 15 of them. So you can actually go, and after you have set one course, you can actually go in as a volunteer in the committee to help deliver the course, be a cook in the kitchen or be
No.
a manager's helper or something like that, just to make sure that no distractions are involved and the people keep to the regime schedule. Schedule is very important over there. You get up at 4:30 a.m. You're supposed to start meditating right away, and you go to bed at 9:30 in the evening. So it's a very strict schedule, and it's
Wow.
basically like a mind gym. Yeah, I didn't speak about that because we didn't have the time to really go into details, but now we do. So
Yeah.
that's all that it is, really. There's nothing, no philosophy, no bullshit, so to say. You just make the exercise. You do the exercise over and
Yeah.
over again, and your mind will be going crazy there because you
Wow.
are just like lacking all this sensory sweet stuff that the mind usually spends time in, like predicting, thinking about future, or thinking about the past,
Yeah.
or thinking about what they want now, or thinking what they don't want now. Like you're supposed to just bring it all back to presence and don't let the mind wander for all those 10 days. And when you manage to do that
Wow.
intensely, I can guarantee you, Nick, you're going to be a different person afterwards.
Jeez. Yeah, man. Every time I talk to someone about stuff like this, like might have been Vipassana, it might not have been. Like John Bose is an old bookman who he always talks about. I think he did like a 3 week, if not a 10 day
Hmm.
meditative experience in California, and he's just like telling me like, yeah, there's millionaires who attribute their success to this. I'm like, whatever, millionaire, cool. You're just catching me with a flower here, but the way that he spoke so intensely about what it connects you to within yourself. When you and I spoke, you talked about how your world comes from within to without. If that makes any sense, maybe I crossed the wire there in how you described
No, no.
things.
The thing is that it has no right way of explaining it. For everybody, it's a different
Right?
perspective, and it can be explained in billions and billions of ways. It was just one scenario that I gave you the other day when I talked about it, but I can give you this insight version that I'm giving you now as well. Whatever clicks the best usually gets the people to take the next steps, and I do recommend this to everybody because it's for your own well-being, mental well-being, that is. Fortunately, we are living in a universe where mental produces the physical. So once you get your mental right, I'm not saying you're going to get it right straight away, but it's
Yeah.
just baby steps to get it right, then your physical starts improving automatically.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? Do you know that name?
No.
So he's not a super kooky, but he's very unique doctor. A psychologist
Hmm.
who's like really pushing the boundaries on how we understand consciousness and how it connects on like the plane of consciousness and all these things
Hmm.
that lead into like understanding vibrational frequencies and how they affect how we carry ourselves and all this stuff that's like not super solid just yet in terms of our understanding for it. But it seems like what you're describing is what this guy talks about of like when you actually get into a highly meditative state, presence and getting rid of all these BS stories that, jump to the forefront of our minds and, dictate our behavior because of past experiences and what other people put into us for programming and all these things. If we can pull back from that, we do quote unquote increase our vibrations with gratitude and having an open heart that accepts and allow our body to then tap into that same vibrational frequency and heal itself and become a higher vibrational version of yourself. Like, is that like the same kind of
Hmm.
stuff that they talk about,
Yeah.
or is there a different angle?
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you're going to say because everything you say can be right for you.
Sure.
It's just a matter of trying it out. And uh, as a side note to this, I think you can't really put any wording to it because usually when people go there for their first Vipassana course, all their life they've been living with their senses directed
Yeah.
towards the outside. You hear, you smell. Even the mind is a sense that actually is directed towards the outside. Even when you think about the thoughts within your head, the thoughts are still about some imaginary scenario happening, or past experience, or future prediction that it wants to relive, or it wants to happen. So there's never really so to say, introspection, not true introspection. So when people go there, they used to, communicating with language, and they want to give this
Yeah.
definition to everything. But what it actually does to you is it takes all your senses, but they're trying to limit your senses while you're there for the 10 days, and you're supposed to constrain them. And when you are not, giving food to those seven senses, the ones that always crave for more food when you're in regular life, then you're actually able to keep the mind in presence at first, and the next level to that is actually introspect, really truly introspect within
Mm.
yourself. And you can't really describe it, because speech is an effect of one sense, two senses actually, you using your listening and me using my mind. So it's not really conceivable philosophically. You have to experience what it means to go inside, and then everything sort of starts making sense and makes sense as a whole. I mean, the senses are just there, and most people live in the illusion that the senses that they have is
Right.
the reality. What you'll be able to hopefully in your lifetime to experience as well is that you will hopefully experience that the senses, including the mind and the illusions that the mind produces, are not reality, but there is actually a deeper and more meaningful reality that you're able to tap into once you constrain your senses and focus and dive in. And when you get the experience of actually experiencing that reality, it sort of it feels like walking out of a theater where you've been just looking at plays on stage all your life, and you walk
Right.
outside and you catch a breath of fresh air. This is real life. So that back there is theater. And from there on, if you do it intensely enough, this experience hopefully will stay and you don't have to forget it. And hopefully you won't forget it within your lifetime.
Yeah. Wow. So you went back and practiced it because you internalized the message so well, right? And that's why you kept going back and you wanted to share it.
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's actually a stages of like receiving a specific focus level. Like
Cool.
those focus levels can be measured actually, and there's
That's
a
really
specific
interesting.
point. You reach a focus level of this, and then happens that, then and
Wow.
it's described actually what happens to like your sensations. This is how it feels rather than
Yeah.
what it's supposed to be, and each time I try to become more and more focused and get to a deeper and deeper state. It didn't work oftentimes, because when you go in with a strong passion and will to succeed, it actually is counterproductive, because you're supposed to limit your craving for things when you go there. But when you crave for a deeper meditative practice, then you're actually doing counter work. You actually do being
Interesting.
counterproductive. So you have to be really careful to balance it out. If you
Yeah.
go in with a sincere middle path, you will be able to reach deeper depths within your subconsciousness, and it's really possible to just figure out the universe this way. I believe figuring out the universe, what I
Mhm.
mean by that is becoming enlightened. And for me, enlightenment is absolutely a state that is achievable within this lifetime. And I hope anybody who is, having stress in their life or feeling some kind of issues. I mean, I believe when you do Vipassana sincerely and strongly enough for and committed to a longer period, I think you'll be able to enjoy every moment in life much more thoroughly than you are now. And that's why I always tell people when I meet somebody who's having issues here, issues there, trying to, define their definitions and their whatnot points and perspectives in life, just go and do it and see what comes out. And then you'll be able to put your own wording to that experience and express it throughout your own subconsciousness.
Got it. So you started doing that before your third summer, did you say? Or your fourth?
Yes, I started doing it before my fourth summer actually,
Yeah, that's
and I
right.
took it usually two courses a year at least. And it came to the
Wow.
point where before my fifth summer, I even did a sit, serve, sit right away. So I spent a month in the center before sales school. I sat a course, I served a course, and I sat another one. So I was
Hmm.
able to be in the zone, so to say, for 30 days in a row, and it did wonders.
Yeah.
And I was doing the same in Ontario before my, uh, you know, theoretical seventh summer. I was being there.
Yes.
I was being there for actually 2 months, and I was sitting first, and I had a huge serving period afterwards. I served like three, four courses, and then I was able to sit another course, and
Mm.
I realized. this is it. I have to pack my things from Southwestern and be done with it. So I called Jaak and said, sorry, man, I'm not going to do it. I think he was semi ready to it because I had no team members, no anchors to keep me there. I could just decide and leave. So it was pretty easy for me to just cut the umbilical cord, so to say.
Yeah.
And I called this guy from, um, where was he from? Calgary, Dimitri Tuksher, who
Ah,
was
I know
starting
Dimitri.
his, yeah, he was starting his, I think it was still at the starting phase. There was his girlfriend Trino, uh,
Hmm.
him and Susanna from Montreal who were selling, and I got in touch with him and asked him if he would take me in as a student of suit sales, and he was okay. He took me in, taught me the ropes in Calgary. I went to start a business, the same kind of franchise business, sales business in Ottawa. I did it for the summer. I managed to sell reasonably well, I would say. But at the end of the summer, I had so many referrals to go to Toronto, so I broke this market open as well. I started selling in Toronto. That's where the real money started coming in, and I
Really?
started
Yeah.
being really, really successful.
Turf
Um,
matters.
Turf matters, right? Well, everybody was telling me, why don't you go to Toronto? So I just took it by its
Yeah.
word, and like, yeah, I'm going to go to Toronto. You told me to go to Toronto. And I actually managed to be quite successful after I had a daughter that was born in September, so I had to fly back to Estonia at the end of the summer. I spent from September till February in Estonia, so half a year with my baby daughter, and
Mhm.
then went back to Toronto to continue my sales venture, I guess.
Yeah. So that was
So
kind of like Tom James is the same business model of custom tailored suits.
yeah, they're competitors.
Yeah. Yeah. So that must have been pretty fun working with Dimitri. I know that he's a character for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, intense working with him. He was, I would say, he was a gravitational leader who drew people around him. I mean, still probably draws people around him. There
Yeah.
were some certain things that I was wary of from straight from the beginning when I met him. But I figured that once we are working in separate cities and we do our own thing, pretty much doesn't really come to any you know bad feelings between us. And that was
Sure.
actually the case. He was in Calgary, I was in Toronto. I was doing sales. I was doing well, and afterwards, after that Toronto experience, I think it was in the middle of the summer or something. Um, I decided that I can't really, be away from my family since I believe my daughter needs me. So there was a decision I had to make: either come and move everybody here to Toronto, or uh, basically go away from LGFG North America and do maybe this in Europe. So I decided for the latter. I went to Estonia. I said, okay,
Yeah.
Dimitri, I'm going to go away from Toronto. Gave all my customers to Chenda, who was at the time another sales guy in Toronto who wasn't producing that much. I went to Estonia, uh, figured, hey, I'll go to Frankfurt. Boom, let's just do it. I had enough cash to just go to Frankfurt. So I told my wife at the time, hey, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be there 3 months, and you're going to come and move in
And
as
that's
well.
Frankfurt,
So
Germany, right?
yeah, that's when Frankfurt am Main in Germany. So I
Yeah.
drove there in a car. Um, how did I get there? I'm just thinking now. Did I? Oh, wait a minute. I flew there. I rented a car for a week, and I was supposed to rent the flat within a week. So I was sleeping in my car for the first week. I was looking for an
Mhm.
apartment in the central downtown. I managed to find an apartment for about $1,400 a month. That's when I moved in and I started selling suits for LGFG over there in Frankfurt.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I mean it was a very different environment. It was Western, but it was still like a completely different environment compared to the North
Yeah.
American cities. It was like Germany is super regulated, and it's over regulated to my tastes. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. So it wasn't as fun, but still the Western environment and Frankfurt and all that stuff. And we had actually a decent apartment. I mean, it looked really weird. It was this one huge room where there was kitchen and living room, and it was about, gosh, it was about 300 square feet. This one big room,
Yeah.
and then there was this another small room. It was like a closet, only about maybe 40 square feet or something, and that was where we slept all together. So it was an interesting interesting experience in Frankfurt because I mean, my wife at the time, she's now my ex-wife, by the way.
Ah,
My wife at the time didn't really feel like it was a place to be, so she sort of hinted to me like, "Hey, it's not going to work out. We're not going to move into this period like for a longer period of time. I want to have my roots in Estonia." So at one point, I actually figured out that Dimitri suits are overpriced for the quality that they
ah,
are selling for, and I found a local dealer from Frankfurt who offers higher quality, higher materials. So I said to Dimitri, "Hey, I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna
yeah.
go into business by myself with my own." And I started a business in Estonia, which started selling made-to-measure suits in Frankfurt.
Oh, no way.
Um, yeah, it was basically I was able to do this for only about 4 months because I had to wait for the model suits to arrive. This pattern required you to buy the model suits. So
Yeah,
basically, you go to a customer, you put a model suit on, and you trim it here and there. So this helped me speed up the measuring, uh, taking the measuring from the
right.
customers. So I was able to wait that out. It took about 3 months for the model suits to arrive. Then I was able to sell for 4 months, and
Cool.
I actually flew out to Norway as well from Frankfurt because my mother was working in Norway, so I could find some high-paying customers over there as well. Unfortunately, just when I broke even with my expenses versus gains, there was a point where my wife and my own relationship took a turn, and we divorced.
Hmm.
So it was my decision to come to Estonia in order so that my daughter would not grow up not knowing me. Otherwise,
Right.
it could have gone the other way around if I wouldn't have decided that. So I was pretty bummed, but still like, hey, I gotta do what I gotta do, right? Like
Of
what's
course.
best in the long run. So let's pack up things, and I still didn't lose money. I broke even, so it wasn't that big of a loss,
Sure.
and I moved back to Estonia. Now, if we're gonna go through every single thing that I did, I'm gonna spend another hour just describing
You're
what I've done.
fine.
So I'm not sure if we have the time, the bandwidth to go through it today. But basically, long story short, I found another project in Estonia where I started selling advertisement for Estonian cruise port. I figured out several advertisement channels for the cruise port, and I sold advertisement myself. Made about 100,000 euros
Cool.
over a period of 2 years, and just working in a summer period. So it was decent for Estonia.
Yeah.
And after that, gosh, what did I do after that? Yeah, after that, I had some savings that I could just live off of. And by that time, I had met my current wife,
Oh,
and yep, by that time, we actually got married and we were pregnant. So I was ready to take a break. Boom. And long story short, I had some work projects in the meantime as well while I was when I was home with children, but nothing too intense or focused, like nothing long-term focusy thingies, if it makes sense. But
right.
when we had kids, at first it was me who was staying home with the little one. My wife was running a dance school. She was just starting a dance school. She wanted to get. She's basically not really a dance school in that regard. It's a school, but she goes to kindergartens and preschools and does dancing lessons there. And hires people to do it under her company. So I helped her to establish that business, gave her my blessing, so to say, because I figured out that's exactly what she would enjoy. She was just sort of in this position in life herself where she couldn't figure out what she needs to do, what she wants to do. And I said, "Hey, you're a dancer, just go with it." And
Yeah.
she's been doing it ever since. But at first, it means that I had to be at home with the little one, and then came another child. So I have three now, and fourth one is actually on the way. So when the third one came, I was still semi hooked with the children. So my time for the past 3 years or so has been spent, uh, I would say, excessively with raising children and managing their discipline, so to say, at home. So it's only now this year that I've been able to sort of break free from that vibe and start focusing on my own path again, which just happened to be solar. And it just happened to be that I have been thinking about, I think the right way to say it would be establishing my own kingdom, so to say,
Mm.
free from any dependencies from
Mm,
supermarkets, processed foods, energy. Energy is the key to all, of course.
of
So
course.
when this opportunity presented itself, like this Estonian company who's basically making a racking, metal racking around the standard panels that transforms these standard panels into a watertight roofing material, it
Mm.
sort of clicked. Yeah, it makes sense. Click on racking makes sense, and it clicked, right? It clicked for me, and I was like, "Wow, this makes sense. I want to be involved in this." And I applied. Actually, they actually searched me through various contacts and wanted to offer me this job as a sales agent, and that's when I really drove into their technology and their products, and that's when I was like, "Wow, this makes sense. Yes, let's do it." At the same time, I got in contact with Lester and John at Overnova, and they were a big support in explaining me some of the ins and outs of the US market. But I knew straight away that this click on racking would just kill it in the US market.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm in the process of doing today,
Right.
preparing stuff, finding partners, and getting ready for this absolutely magnificent project arriving to the US market so that people can actually buy it, and it's gonna kill the market. I think it's gonna be superb because it's so cheap to produce. It
Mm,
makes constructions. BIPV is what the faculty is called, building integrated photovoltaics.
yes.
And so this makes this segment of the construction industry so cheap because you can buy any panel, almost any panel. You click around the rack and bam, it's a
Nice.
watertight roofing material.
That's awesome. And that's Solar Stone. For anybody who was curious, solarstone.com is what you can check out. Solar Stone is an Estonian based company, right? It looks
Right.
like 5 megawatts of solar installed, 550 completed projects there in Europe, tons of reduced carbon emissions, and installed in 8 different companies or countries. Sorry, that's awesome.
Hmm. Probably companies, at least eight of. I mean, we have
Yeah, right.
installers and probably at least eight companies as well.
That's awesome. So you got connected with them again. It was like a year or two ago. Is that right?
No,
More?
it was just in February actually.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah.
I actually have been looking for a way to start doing things away from home.
Yeah.
Ever since from last February or so. But last February, I did have an employment with a toy wholesaler. It
Hmm.
didn't last long, just 2 months, because I wasn't able to find my spot in that firm. I was hired with a relatively high salary for Estonian standards to be the marketing and sales lead, but at the company was going through so many weird position changes and people were leaving and it was just leaving, not many people coming. So a lot of admin tasks were shuffled around. Some of them got put on my responsibility list, and I wasn't really being able to do the sales and marketing or learn the things that I needed to learn and do the way that I figured. So it was a natural point in time where we both, with the CEO, decided it's time to part ways. So it was a amicable split in about 2 months. So for the rest of the year, again, I had still had my savings. I was able to live through it, and only this past December is when I started actively looking for actually something new. And I was thinking maybe I can get something by beginning of February. And I went through about 5 or 6 recruitment processes. Out of those 5 or 6, 3 of them wanted to hire me, and I found some real crazy offers. Like this one firm from Latvia offered me a humongous salary, like I don't know,
Hmm.
4,000 euros in Estonia is a lot
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
And but their model of employment was sort of semi illegal because they wanted to put me on a Latvian employee list while I was still living in
Mm,
Estonia.
mm,
So I couldn't sign off of this. So I said, no, sorry guys, this is not going to happen. So kept looking, had another interview that seemed promising, and then Solarstone came along. Um, yeah, and when weirdly it was them, it was Silver. Silver is the CEO of Solarstone. It was his drive and his motivation to include me that actually got me on board because I was having another offer on the table. But he was like, "Yes, I want to involve you somehow. Let's get you on board. The salary is not that big, but you get commission when you sell, so it can go up to 4,000 as well if you work on it. But I'm not in it to be staying here in Estonia on that salary. I told him straight away that I'm gonna come and I expect us to be in the U.S. market within a year, and this is gonna just kill it over there. It's the way to go. US wants it, needs it. Solar is big. Everybody gets grants. Everybody gets government support, government grants. Refinancing is available, so it will be it will sell really well over there. So here I am. Prepping the process. Hopefully, we'll be having our first carports up in August at Ovanova's Regent Center.
Love to see that, man. Yeah, and what Lester and John they're building with Obanova, great partnership there. You and I have talked about maybe EnLight being a potential partner. So
Right.
um, certainly love what I've seen from what you've shown me. So it's really
Nice.
cool. Now,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. What my vision is to this is like at first you need to get your foot in the door, and the company's founders have kind of understood that the first project would not have to be, they can even take a small loss by shipping the stuff over there. But it's about getting those houses up, and when you tell to a local CNN or a BBC news station that hey, we have a building that's actually covered by PV panels and it's
yeah,
watertight,
yeah.
then I think they're going to show and they're going to make a story about it. And that's when it really, really gets to spread around to every corner of the news or maybe even the country corner of the local news. But that's when it's going to blow up, I think.
Well, I see the vision, man. I'm excited to see what we, we get to talk about and what you end up putting together
Right
for
on.
Solar Stone Estonia. Is
Right
there is
on.
there a reason why they chose Solar Stone? Is that because of Estonia, Solar Estonia?
I believe so, yes. It's a
That's cool.
stone and it's a solar. And so it's, yeah, because they're not really selling stones of any kind
Of
yet.
course, yeah. Just imagine
Well,
if PV could work on a rock. That'd be cool.
there is a roof module that works on roof tiles. So we call them stones, roofed stones. So there's a
Oh,
vague connection to that, but
got it.
yeah, it's the Estonia part I think they like.
Love it. Cool. Well, by the time this gets out there, everybody's gonna know who's who's in Estonia, where it's at, and maybe they'll come visit, right? Because
Right.
definitely
And
gotta.
you
Yeah,
know, if you are interested in this, then you listen. I'm going to make my own ad now.
yeah,
If
please.
you are interested and it feels kind of cool, then do shoot me an email. Hopefully Nick will share it with you guys, because when I can produce the interest and show the interest to the founders, they'll be like, "Ooh, hey, this thing is already going, so we need to, push more money over there." So hopefully we'll get it started even sooner, because these guys haven't been to the states. The founders, I know at least two of the three haven't been to the states. The ones that I'm speaking to right now, so they don't really know the U.S. market, the U.S. way, the U.S. culture. So they are. I
Yeah,
feel a little bit of hesitancy in them, like, "Oh yeah, U.S. is big. We need to go there. We want it. We want the grants. We want to establish a business there." But it's like this huge, like, what is the US all about? Like,
yeah. Language and culture
how do you
barriers.
do business over there? What are the
Oh yeah,
principles of doing the business? For me, I've gone through that already, and I
yeah,
know you guys are straight shooters. You like get straight down to business, keep it high, keep it happy. That's the way to do business in the states. But for them, it's this huge science right now. I can feel their
mm,
brains not really, being able to figure out how to be or what kind of brand to be in the U.S. market. So when
yeah,
any of you guys listeners show up your support and your interest, then I'll be able to present them with it, and hopefully they'll how do you say, they'll crack under the pressure sooner.
yeah, yeah. Right. Get
Right.
build some momentum to move stateside. So
Right on. Right on.
there's your email on screen, fmurumaa at gmail.com. I'm going to allow you to pronounce it again for everybody so that I don't ruin it one more time. So
It's Fred Muruma, and my email is fmuruma@gmail.com.
Muruma,
There. There.
Muruma. Yes, love it.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. Well, that's super exciting, man. Of course, I'll give a quick shout out to EnLight.Energy, of course, who I've been working with for the past year. So for the past year, we've been kind of doing what Southwestern real estate has done with the real estate industry, right? They're cleaning up the ethics and making sure everything's straight shooter, right? No mediocrity, and just letting people flop around. That's what we're doing with EnLight. Is we're looking for sharp book people. The cool thing about the solar industry, we talked about, in total 3 solar companies in the past like 20 minutes, right? Between Nova, Solarstone, and EnLight. It's a very mutually beneficial industry where we're able to talk partnerships with Fred, and we've even helped out Nova in the past with some things that we have access to resource-wise through our company. So we're all on the same team, and if you want to come work with us, I recommend you have a passion for the planet. Don't lose your mind to like how we're ruining the planet, because you quickly will. But you can
True
definitely
that.
feel.
Can
Yeah.
vouch for that.
Oh yeah. So if you want to just feel good, it's a nice pat on the back to be like, I'm doing something for the planet. I'm not doing enough, because none of us are. But not to get too pessimistic, there is a lot of reward that comes from serving in this industry, because instead of selling people stuff, you're saving people money, right?
Yay.
They're already purchasing it. It just makes
Yay.
sense. So
Yes. To give my 2 cents or 10 cents to this, why I'm doing it
please,
is basically comes down to the Vipassana centers themselves that I've been living in several Vipassanas all across the world. I've been in
yeah,
India, I've been in
wow,
Burma, I've been in Georgia, I've been in Texas, I've been in Illinois, I've been in California. I've been like pretty widely in Sweden, in Austria, and they all strive towards energy dependency. They all strive towards organic food, being self-sustaining, self-sufficient.
yeah,
So what I can see myself doing with this know-how and hopefully business connections and business acumen in the near future is to just go to a Vipassana center and say, hey, this is the Vipassana center package we offer you. We'll do this, we'll do that, and it just makes sense for you to apply, because we're going to cut down on your energy bill, we're going to cut down on your grocery bill,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
my vision is actually going back to the centers and helping them reach zero energy, net energy neutrality, or whatever you
yeah.
call it, whatever fancy word you want to call it.
Net zero. Yeah,
Net zero, yeah, super duper, no preservatives, all just organic, whatever you call it. I
oh
want to
yeah.
bring back to the community, because those centers are actually doing a really important thing for the society, and I
Mm,
just want to support them by you know getting rid of all the junk and hassle dazzle with the outside world, where money is involved, with utilities, with the grocery bills. They still buy their food through grocery wholesalers, and it's actually not charged to anyone but the center. The centers
uh,
live off of donations, so they don't ask their money from the students. Unless the student
yeah,
wants to give, they don't take it, and you can't donate unless you've sat the 10-day course. So hopefully I'll be able to create a package for them, and I don't think within my lifetime we're going to be able to solve the climate crisis.
no,
It's just too big of a goal, but I know for sure that I can help a few centers energy become free of energy dependency and become energy dependent.
yeah. We'll create our own little
Energy
oasis.
independent.
Right, right.
Right.
We'll help create our own little, paradises, slices of, self-sufficiency in the world. Even
Hopefully.
if it burns down or something like that. Who knows? We don't know how the climate crisis is going to continue to unfold. We know that it's here. If you want to talk about it, hit me up. I'll teach you some stuff, if you want to actually care about it. For most people, just know that solar is cheaper than your electric bill. Let's give you a bill swap and save you some money month one if you finance it, or at least that's how we do business. And there's plenty of ways
Right
that
now.
you can own your own power regardless. So it's my lifelong passion. Got the degree in it and everything. It's my 10th year in the solar industry. So yeah, it's been cool to have this random connection, Fred, that Lester wanted me to talk with you. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful that I did. So
Yeah, Lester's been hooking me up with several, like various different channels. He had a guy in Bulgaria was
yes,
doing a historic park renovation and was
that's
raising
Rado,
funds.
Radoslav.
Rado,
He
Rad, yes.
sponsored our show. Yeah,
Nice, 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 nice. So yeah, Lester's been just hooking me up here and there. It's cool. I mean, the guys obviously have been in business for 10 plus years, right? So they know their stuff when they're talking about solar. And for the US market, I need an insider like that to give me the reality of what's going on,
Yeah.
boots on the ground, so to say. So I absolutely, thanks Lester, thanks John for your information. I mean, I really
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely excited to continue conversations with you, Fred. My curious question, in a kind of side note, is do you know Oscar and Oliver? Did we talk about VDesignly, our Estonian friends building our Ponytails website?
Oscar and Oliver are actually building your website?
Yeah. So
I
from
don't
scratch,
know.
getting
Well,
everything.
they probably later sellers. Nowadays, everybody has
Yeah,
sold after me.
of
I'm
course.
assuming there's some young tech guys, probably, right?
Yeah. So Oscar and I think Oliver just left or are just about to leave for the bookfield. So yeah,
Mhm.
in a few weeks. So they're current book people who, during the pandemic, because they couldn't sell in America, they started getting into web design. So VDesignly is looking to come stateside. They've got, I think, over 200 or 300 websites that they helped build over the last 3 years in Estonia, and now they're looking to make a strong presence in the United States. Our website is just about finished. They're very meticulous. They make sure that everything's working with integrations, right? Because you can make your own website on your own, but if you don't know how to integrate it to all your other systems, like if you're in sales, you got a CRM, right? Customer relationship manager, where you can automate things through your website to auto populate leads for
Mhm.
people who visit, for example. So that's their strength, is making the whole thing come to life and work on a multifaceted level. So if we could get you
Cool.
in touch with BDesignly, we'll get you a nice, good looking website. So the other last shout out. This almost feels ridiculous, Fred, what I'm about to say about Cardinal Senior Benefits
Oh,
again.
bam! Those guys again. Pachung. Yes, bring them, bring them.
Yeah, so seriously, it's really impressive the work that they're putting together. So let me pull up the last ad here for Cardinal. They are really big on flexibility and freedom. So many companies talk about those things, but at the end of the day, you wind up having to stick to a schedule or get paid a certain way because of the way that companies maintain control over the people that work with them. But with Cardinal, because of the demographic they serve and the ease at which you can turn on leads and turn off, work, agents can actually mold their work around a schedule that they want to do personally. So another shout out to Greta Huerta, who took time off the last 2 weeks to come back strong in her job at Cardinal, crushed it with another $10,000 week. And her newest agent, John Cabrera, just a few months into the business, is making 6,500 in a week. That was his best week just recently, and so well, that was actually 2 weeks ago, and this last week he sold 8,000 in a week. Just a few months into the business. So if these numbers are appealing to you, of course, right? 15 of their 59 active agents grossed over $25,000 for the month, right? And 15 agents averaged over $35,000 in profit in just 104 hours per agent. So that's 26 hours a week, right? Which is crazy. So if you've thought about leaving your job, looking around to other jobs, you're unhappy with the freedom and flexibility of your current job, let's give these guys a call, right? Or not. They don't. This is Quentin's wording here. You could call them or not. They don't give a shit. They're going to crush it with you or without you, but they'd rather do it with you because it's fun to do it together, right? So that's awesome. Um, Cardinal,
Nice.
we'll put you in touch with them. $500 referral, blah, 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 ticket to BIZZLER. Love
Mhm.
those guys. So, did you
Mhm.
ever meet Quentin or Pedro Vega or Nick Dale back in the book business?
No.
Some Texas homies, Texas and Georgia, actually.
Mm.
Quentin's from Georgia, so they're really good at what they do. But yeah, I don't know how you want to finish this episode out, Fred. I was curious. We've talked about a lot. Your Southwestern experience, your post Southwestern experience. It seems like this Vipassana is like one of the more significant things in your life. This isn't like what's better, Southwestern or Vipassana, because it's clear that you learned a lot from both.
Mhm.
But what are some of, if not the standout lesson in not just those two experiences, but anything else in your life? Like, what's your soapbox that you want to,
Hmm.
send off this episode with?
My soapbox. Hmm.
Yeah,
I guess you hit the nail at the head right there when you said Vipassana is my thing. It is my thing. It
yeah,
transformed me and it has been an invaluable life's companion. Just about being able to use it anywhere at any time has given me this huge flexibility in consciousness to kind of transition into whatever is needed. So when I'm in sales, I tend to be, I always tend to be like within, if you take a salesperson, I would say, let's say, who's never done Vipassana and a salesperson who's done Vipassana, and you put them to a new environment and we give a the gun, let's see who gets to higher sales faster.
yeah,
I'm usually the fastest. I can say I can vouch for myself so far.
yeah,
So, and I know why it happens. It happens because I have this fluidity of consciousness, and I can transition into what I desire much faster than some people in their, so to say, boxes. They
yeah.
can't break out of the box. They still have their limits. But for me, as long as the moral issues or the moral limits are in place, I can transition into another personality much easier. And
Cool.
this is kind of like what I guess what I want my box to be all about at the end here is that um, you can do various things in life. You can become a billionaire. You can become a pauper. You can become whatever and do whatever. But when you are feeling good and you actually uh, below the feelings of stress and anxiety, there's this constant vibe of I know this is just impermanent. This will just pass,
Yeah,
and the tides will change. And if I'm riding a high wave right now, don't dive into it too deeply because it's gonna
right.
come down. And if you're being a pauper, you could just say to yourself, you don't have to say it, but it's always there. It just feels like this will just pass. It's just a permanent thing. So this feeling, this confidence that comes from that feeling, like nothing can shake you, nothing can take your mojo away, so to say, is a feeling worth fighting for in life. And
Yeah,
to have this feeling available unconditionally every second of life, despite the circumstances you're in, is a absolute gem when you achieve it in life. So for myself, I'm not, at the end, like where I've achieved and I'm done. I still have a long path to go, but I have sort of, I feel like I've hit sort of like a first milestone in that regards. And I feel like this feeling now has been with me ever since I managed to break open the door, so to say. So
mm,
from my perspective, seeing people around me, meeting new people, all of them having their own issues, their own agendas, whatever the case has been, I've always felt that whatever you're doing, it can be done better when you just discover a little bit, only a little bit about who you really are. Your mental issues will go away really fast when you have mental anxieties or mental health issues. That's like the, I don't know if vaccine is the right word to say here, but it's like the speed drug that fixes it the fastest. So when you have those kinds of issues, then Vipassana will get rid of these the fastest. And mental health is such a important topic nowadays.
really,
Um,
truly is.
so I guess this is my final message to the universe. Whoever's listening is listening. And I actually 2 years ago in the summertime, well, it was COVID time, so I wasn't able to apply for a 10-day Vipassana course in any of the centers across Europe or anywhere really. So I did my own self course. I asked my friend to give me a cabin in the middle of nowhere, this god-forsaken place, and took some water and food with me and just sat a 10-day course by myself. I managed
Wow.
to actually sit more than half of a 24-hour day cycle. So I sat 13 hours at least each day. And it was great. I mean, afterwards, I was just, again, I hadn't done a Vipassana for 2 years because of the children, right? So after, I felt so much lighter again. And I actually felt like doing a fast because I felt like, All right, man. I mean, sitting here in COVID times has just created a lot of fat around my body. So this needs to get rid of it. I need to get rid of it now. So I did a fast where I wanted to fast for 10 days in a row, without eating anything, just drinking lemon water. I did the 10 days, but then I
Wow.
realized, wow, man, I could do more. So I ended up doing 22 days of
You're
fasting.
kidding me, dude.
I'm
What?
not, dude. I'm not. I
That's
ended up doing 22 days without eating anything, just drinking lemon water, and it was great.
wow.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
great.
That's like breaking the belief barrier and hitting more for Vipassana practitioners, right? In this dynamic.
It could be when you take it like that. But for me, it's just again smooth sailing because I had done this intense vipassana practice before by myself, and actually I have this document on my YouTube channel. If you're interested, I
Cool.
have this video of actually keeping a diary of certain days throughout my 22 days. I think my YouTube channel is under my name, so let me just double check it.
We can link it in the description of the video and
Yeah,
Spotify
yeah,
and all that.
it's under my name. So you just search on YouTube Fred Muruma and you'll find my channel.
Love it. Cool. So wow, yeah, we love to learn and grow, and this sounds like the easiest way to just like you said talking about fasting. That's how we cleanse our like our digestive tract and all that, right? But with
Right.
the cleanse of meditation for 22 days or 10 days, whatever it may be, that sounds like a really purifying cleansing process that we just don't seek or really have readily available with all the distractions of society and world as it is. So
Right.
it's
And I think it serves also as a proof of what I was saying earlier is when you clean your mental state and your subconsciousness, it automatically produces the changes in your life required to change your physical body as well. And that's what happened in my case as well. I hadn't sat the course for 2 years, so things were piling on me quite heavily with children and being stuck in this stupid rut of just managing baby stuff. It doesn't do ultra quick progress to your mental sharpness, so to say. I
right.
would say. So I was, feeling like, yeah, it's time to do something about it. So I took my own course, and right after when I improved my mental faculties, I felt it's the right thing to do to my body, and that's just like the fasting is a natural progression or the fruit of my work at the camp, doing my own 10-day vipassana course.
Yeah.
When I
Oh,
cleansed
of
my mind, the body automatically needed to be cleansed as well.
course. Gosh. And then you start to glow differently, right? you
I
just
don't know. If you look at me in the video, I start to get quite skinny at the end. I mean, I lost within those 20 days, I lost 40 pounds,
oh
like
my gosh,
40
yeah. I'm looking
pounds.
at
Yeah,
your videos here, and you lost 18 kilograms, 40 pounds on a 22-day water fast, and discovered the
right.
ketogenic diet. Okay.
So obviously, if you go into something like this, don't do it like this is my first fast, right? So I wouldn't recommend anyone to dive so deeply right away. It was a progression from Vipassana. That's why I was able to do it for so long. But if you
Yeah.
don't do any mental practice before, it's probably going to be hell. And you need to have fat, right? If you don't have fat, don't do it. That's a
Yeah.
stupid
Right.
thing to do.
That's crazy. Yeah. So all you yoga warriors who are fit as a toothpick, try not to fast for 22 days straight.
No, man.
All
Bad
right.
idea. Bad idea. I just recently came from a military boot camp. It was just a refresher course. It was in September, and they taught survival in the forest. And they said the people that starve fastest, when a situation like war and you have to go to a forest and stay alive, are bodybuilders. They absolutely lose it within the first few days because
Yeah.
they have such a low amount of fat usually on their body, and they need their proteins they can't get in the forest,
Mm,
so it just goes bonkers for them. And another is like skinny guys who are just like skinny for a reason, like some people think they need to be for appearance's sake. Yeah,
yeah.
but it's totally okay to actually, for a human body, it's totally okay to have fat at a certain time in a year, because when you go back in human history, when they used to be our forefathers used to be hunter gatherers, they would probably just live their lives like that. They would
Yep.
in a warmer season they would eat a lot of carbohydrates and fruit, and that's what the metabolism would use. The fats would just accumulate. They wouldn't really touch those in a warmer season. And once the warmer season would be over and the winter season started, the fruits and the carbs wouldn't be readily available, so they would starve a lot of often.
Right.
And during that starving period, the fats would get accumulated, and by spring they would be skinny again. So they would start, the fruit and the sweets and the carbohydrate diet again, and fats would start to accumulate again. So it's actually a normal process of people gaining fat within a year for some sort of portion and then losing it again. It's just the problem with the society is nowadays, like, everything is full of sugars and carbohydrates, so you
Yeah.
never really get to the point where your body starts to burn your own fat. You
Right.
just live off of the sugars, and the fats just accumulate, and that's how you get obesity.
Yeah. We've heard that word once or twice around here. So, yeah. Fred, love the conversation topic. There's plenty more to be said. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing, how you were the first Estonian to break the belief barrier. That's so cool, man.
Yay!
Go out and sell
Yay!
10,000 units and 12,000 units nonetheless that first time in that fifth summer. So it was cool to see that. But what you shared about this Vipassana meditation, like hearing about how you discovered it through like KJ and some other people, it's very fascinating how you then kind of took it up and really made it into a compelling lifestyle. If it's a lifestyle or if it's just a way of being, however you want to describe it. I learned a lot in this conversation, and hopefully those of us tuning in are also picking up some pointers on how to live a life of mental clarity and not holding yourself back through all these unconscious ways that we do it. So thank you so much for.
You're welcome. You're
Okay.
welcome, man. Like I said, I'm the guy that does whatever needs to be done. Like, if I see a problem, if I see a person that needs some kind of guidance, well, I just do what needs to be done. Hey, do this. It works. Usually it all comes down to Vipassana, actually, because whenever I meet people with issues, it comes down to, okay, whatever you have your problems, go sit 10 days, come back, and we'll talk
Yeah.
then. This usually works too when they do it. It's just about getting, it's just about finding the time to take 10 days off your busy life. That's the key.
Oh, yeah. And how can people best get in touch with you, Fred?
Email.
Cool.
My email, fmurumaa@gmail.com.
Love it. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us today, Fred. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Ponytails podcast.
2 ways, remember?
One second.
You'll get it.
I
You'll grow.
messed up the
You'll
spelling
learn.
on his name, everybody listening. So there we go. Muruma.
There it
Right?
is. fmurumaa@gmail.com. Write
Perfect.
to me. I will
Yes.
listen to all your worries and send you to Vipassana.
Like a true, kind-hearted man. That's awesome.
I do what needs to be done.
Love it. Matter of fact. So yeah, thank you all, everybody, for tuning in. Follow us, subscribe, share our YouTube link, our Spotify, Apple Podcast. The more eyeballs and ear holes that we can get tuning in,
Eye holes
bigger
and
this
ear balls.
Yes. The more that we can grow this thing and really bring this community together, right? Our jockeys, they're helping us out a ton. Shout out to all y'all once more. We definitely want to share stories like this more because you're raising belief barriers after the fact, just by being a badass, Fred. So thank you.
Boom! Really? A
Oh,
badass? That's what
boom,
you think?
boom, yeah, let's go. So
It's
thank
just my mojo, but I can be a very kind-hearted little elf as well.
you. You can do it all. All right.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.